So this is a good, again, we won't use any of that.
Yeah.
But that's a great lead in, because one thing I've always been curious about is, and the whole point of this podcast is understanding people's creative processes.
Yep.
But it doesn't always have to be like a visual art.
Right.
How, because like I can be laying in bed at 2:00 in the morning and think of a shot or a transition or a composition that I want to duplicate. How is it? I imagine it's similar for you in some cases where you're like, I wonder if these things together would be good.
Yeah, I mean, really our lineup is kind of a reflection as to what it is that we're eating. And so I don't really have a culinary background per se, and neither does my wife, but the vast majority of our conversations are all about what are we going to eat tonight? What region of the world are we interested in? And then like really following recipes or inspiration from some of those different things. And so it's the same thing. It's like, you know, I'll talk to a company or we'll look at making a sauce for ourselves, and it's basically what do we want to put on a dish? And then looking at different flavor combinations that would work that are completely different than what a lot of people are doing, because that's one of the things we pride ourselves on is we're friends with some of the top hot sauce makers in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we, you know, go a little bit left or right as to what a lot of people are doing in the market?
That's awesome. So I in doing research for this, I for some reason had your timelines much longer than they were. And as someone who is just kind of like re-entering the world and running my own business, knowing like I have a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan for growth and expansion, you were on Hot Ones within 3 months. Is that correct? Am I understanding that?
We got the call 1 month into incorporation, which was crazy. So yeah, we launched the company in 2021 with no expectation as to what it is that has happened there. So it's a pretty interesting story as to how all that started, where it's always been a dream for my wife and I to start a hot sauce company. We've been big hot sauce fans. Like when we were going around, like first dating and things like that, it's like we go to food and drink shows. And so food has always been a very big part of what it is that we did. And I still say to this day, if I'm not on this side of the table selling hot sauce, I'd be on the other side going to hot sauce shows and doing all that stuff anyway. So during the pandemic, like we'd always talk one day, but you know, we were both busy, we were both working, and you know, one day sometimes turns into a much longer timeline because you put it in the back burner and there's always an excuse or a reason not to do something. And so during the pandemic, we were lucky enough to still be working, but you know, I was working from the college and it was all remote delivery. My wife was working in office, but you know, she was a little bit more reduced hours, a little bit more flexibility. We're like, you know what? We've been talking about this for so long. We've been messing with recipes. People say they're good. Let's do something about this and see what happens. So I say we're lucky, but we're fortunate as to how everything happened. So in 2020, in about June, we had bought a bunch of stuff from the Pucker Butt Pepper Company. So Smokin' Ed Curry, you know, one of the celebrities in the hot sauce world, one of the big names. We had bought some stuff from them. We've been buying from Pucker Butt for a while, but this time it was, you know, a decent seed order and some sauces and things like that. And I just randomly got an email one night on the couch going, hey, thanks so much for buying. We see your order. We've seen you're a repeat person. We appreciate you, Ed. And I remember going to Tash, which is my wife now, and going, I just got this email, and as a marketing guy with a marketing background, I'm like, either A, it's very good marketing, or B, this is actually Ed, and I don't know what's happening right now. So I responded to that email, as I do, and just kind of said, hey, we're big fans of the brand. We really appreciate you. Not sure if this is good marketing or Ed himself, but, you know, we love what you guys do. We love the kindness and empathy that you show within the branding, and, you know, being who you are, we're big fans. And I got an email back going, no, this is Ed.
No way.
So as we were literally just starting this whole process, we ended up getting in touch with Ed right at the beginning. And so I wrote back and said, hey, like, I know you don't normally do wholesale to startups and things like that. I don't know what the process is. but can I have a phone call with you? Because we're thinking about doing something. I would love to pick your brain for 20 minutes, get the validation from the very top if you can.
100%.
And he was kind enough to give us some of his time. He knew the area because he grew up in Michigan, so we're from Kitchener. So he knew he'd come up here fishing and stuff. And so we just kind of hit it off. And he quickly agreed to send us our first gallon of Carolina Reaper mash ever for recipe development. And we ended up creating the smoked pineapple ginger sauce. So that was probably like July, August 2020.
That's crazy.
We're starting to brand development, doing all these things. For people listening or people watching on whatever platform it is, we're called Ginger Goat because I have a red goatee. Yep. So we went through the process of going through, building the brand and all the things that I have the background in. So, mission, vision, values, building it like a large company right from the beginning, but like really having no product. So this whole time we're doing like our market validation thing. And that Christmas, we had finally had like a janky label that we printed at home on Avery and sent them out to some friends and family for Christmas. My uncle, who's a graphics guy and has some art background in St. John's, Newfoundland, where I'm based, he did the logo for us, and it was just kind of like this cool little thing. And throughout this whole period, I'm doing what I do and, talking to local chefs and influencers and people that we know, just like, hey, should we do this? Like, tell us if the sauce is any good.
Yeah.
And one of those groups that we ended up getting in touch with very early on was the folks over at Hot Ones. Cool. And so we went, hey guys, like we're looking at launching this brand. You're the best in the world when it comes to hot sauce. Everybody wants to work with you at some level. You've tasted thousands of sauces or more. Can you just tell us if our sauce is any good? And, a couple phone calls, a couple conversations, vetting us a little bit. We ended up sending some bottles down to them.
Okay.
So now we're in probably February of 2021.
That's so fast.
Yeah,
that's so fast.
We do things fast. That's it. Is complacency kills when it comes to businesses, and the more that you sit on things and you get stuck in that, analysis paralysis, and you don't keep that inertia going that you have that spark with. A lot of businesses fizzle out during that period, and we decided, we're just going to go and see what happens. So we made 300 bottles total. We had incorporated. I know a bunch of people in my community, so we got into a couple of stores, independent grocery stores, some seafood stores. So we had a lot of support really early on. And then it was March, so 1 month, just before Patty's Day, I was sitting on the couch and I got an email back. Hey, we got your sauce down here at Hot Ones and we like it. Would you be interested in jumping on a phone call to, share feedback? I'm like, awesome. But then I look at the names that are on that email and I'm like, all right, so it's the guy I've been talking to and then the owners of like Heatonist, which does the curation for Hot Ones itself. I go, Tash, this is weird. Again, in one of those moments on the couch where I get an email and going, all right, so we're going to get feedback from these guys. Awesome.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was very surreal.
Was it, I don't mean to interrupt. Is there ever a point where you're like, ooh, this is happening so fast, like you start to almost like second guess yourself?
A little bit. But what we do and what I don't want to say has made us successful, but with opportunities like this, we just said yes and figured it out. Awesome. Because you can hum and haw about it, you can do this, but a lot of people don't get these opportunities.
Yeah.
And it could be anything in any stage of the business. And there's one of two things: is one, I'm not ready. Listen to that little voice in the back of your head, and I want to be clear. Sometimes you're not ready.
Yeah.
It could be financial restrictions. There's a lot that goes along with saying yes and figuring it out, because you have to have the background to be able to execute on something.
100%.
I mean, if you care about integrity and quality and all those other
kind
things.
of important things. Yeah, no, for sure.
But that was our motto from the beginning: is we're just going to say yes and we're going to figure it out. And so we had made that decision going into it, not knowing what to expect at all. And so we ended up hopping on the video call. We did it from my office. And just us being us, we're, all right, let's lay a little bit of ground rules here, guys. One, we're both drinking a beer. Two, if you see something moving around down here, pick up, we had a German short-haired pointer who was just a puppy at that time. And so we're like, here's our dog. So if you see us farting around, around with stuff. Like,
this is
what's going on. They're like, oh, you guys seem kind of cool. So they went and got a beer, and now we're just talking. And so they were very complimentary in asking us about our background, which I'll get into in a little bit. So again, not a culinary background, but a business background. Who are you guys? Where'd the brand come from? Tell us about what you did. And we were so stoked to be able to tell them. Well, at this stage, we've made 300 bottles, and we've got 2 stores, and people say our sauce is good, but we're more interested in learning about your stuff. And they were super complimentary, and they're like, yeah, like, you guys seem like you're really good, and you got your stuff together. The product is awesome. And at this point, Tash and I are kind of looking at each other going, we might get onto, like, the Heatonist website.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Like, it's becoming a little bit apparent that, you know, it's very good feedback.
Yeah.
And we kept talking, and they're like, tell us about your scaling. Tell us about what you guys can do and things like that. You know, how do you plan, or where do you plan on taking the business? And we kind of shared some of that stuff with them. And again, like, yeah, okay, like, this is a very unique sauce. We're really happy. And we're like, oh my goodness, we might get in, like, their subscription box, like, which is a decent size thing for any company, let alone someone that's made 300 bottles. Like, you know, tell us about, you know, are you guys trademarked and all this other stuff? And they started asking some very serious questions about us and about the business, and while being very complimentary about the sauce. And eventually we got to the point where we're like, guys, like, you're killing me right now. Where are we going with this? And they kind of looked at each other and went, did you want to be on the show? And that's when my ear exploded, because that's where my wife was. And she just screamed with excitement going, like, I can't believe this. And we're like, yes, we do. When? They're like, now. So that was March, and, you know, we said yes, and they're like, don't you need to know what that means? I'm like, 100% we need to know what all that means. We need to know numbers and scaling, and we need to figure out our FDA accreditation and figuring out export and all these things.
I didn't even think about any of that stuff.
There's a lot to it, but we said yes, let's go. And they're like, all right, we'll sleep on it, and then call us in a day or two and let us know your final decision. I'm like, my decision is not going to change. The answer is yes. When I talk to you next, we'll have a better plan in place to be able to figure out how we're going to do this, not what we're going to do with you. And so we hung up the phone, did a happy dance, and 2 days later we had the call. We said we're 100% in. We had a lot of things to do before then, but we had a lot of stuff in place when it comes to finding a co-packer and people to be able to produce at scale and stuff. But yeah, we said yes, and by May, I believe, of that year, end of May, early June, we were in Matt Damon's mouth. So it was this crazy, crazy thing.
Did you ever think when you started, and, like, how I imagine in my head, and please correct me, because I'm sure it's like a fantasy kind of thing where, like, you're chilling at home with a stove and you're just like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That, like, fast forward, like, the one that always jumps out at me was, like, NSYNC really liked yours.
Yeah, NSYNC really liked it. I mean, the biggest badge of honor for us was Iron Chef Bobby Flay.
Yeah.
Which was the second time we were on the table. So that was, like, our second sauce. So we've been on the show twice now. And so that was the second one. But, you know, it was the wildest thing, because, like, we had no idea. We wanted a vacation a year. Like, let's start this little side hustle and see if we can get, like, a vacation a year.
Yeah.
Just from, like, you know, going to markets and doing things like that. We had no real, I wouldn't say we didn't have ambition, but we didn't have the foggiest idea that our rise would happen so fast. Like, we had no clue. But I mean, it did definitely kind of justify our decisions a little bit.
I would say so. I would say, like, how so what's, you know, do they tell you, hey, it's going to start whichever season it was.
Yeah.
This is going to be the episode. Get ready.
No, there's some things I don't necessarily want to get into about the relationship with them, but they do place POs. When they order a sauce from you, they're doing the distribution for it. So you do get some POs as part of that. They do the sales as part of that. I mean, it's like winning a gold medal in the hot sauce Olympics.
Yeah.
And then they take care of the sales. So again, we went from, I think I'm comfortable in saying that we went from making 300 bottles total to figuring out how we were about to smoke 1.5 tons of pineapple without being able to tell our friends and family, because like there's NDAs involved, and
so I was very curious about that side as well. Yeah,
and we couldn't tell anybody, and it was super cool because, you know, as we're going through this and we're launching the company, we're walking around the house and just randomly going, did you know that we're about to be on Hot Ones, which was this cool little inside thing between my wife and I. But when we were talking to all of our friends who were all super supportive in our family and stuff, and they're just like, can you guys imagine if you were to get on Hot Ones one day, what that would
torture.
be? And like, can you imagine, or you should talk to so-and-so and do this. And we actually had a family friend that, one of my really good friends, one of their family members or like friend of a family owned a hot sauce manufacturing company, like a co-packer. And so we'd be playing Call of Duty because it's during the pandemic, so we're all locked down. So we'd have these Call of Duty games at night, and our friend would be like, dude, you got to talk to Will. Like, you got to go out and talk to him, like, especially when you get bigger. And I'm like, I was literally there that day.
No way.
Setting up for what we're about to do. So it was like this whole inside thing that we couldn't share with anybody, but it was so cool for us. But yeah, they do place POs, and so we had to, you know, go from incorporation is great, but then we had to go after all of our trademarking and FDA accreditation, and all of our proper labeling and licensing, and doing this at a very quick pace, and a very, you know, a bigger scale than what we ever thought, in like a couple of months. So that was part of what we had to say yes to.
So I love that. First off, like, that's so crazy. Looking back now, like in hindsight, do you think it's almost better that, you know, obviously they're like the pros, they've done it a million times, that they set you up for success as a business in that sense, where it wasn't like, hey, you're going to be on the show, we'll see what happens, and then potentially be drowning in orders and trying to figure all that other stuff out for yourself? That it was like, oh, you set us up for success and this is kind of dope.
Yeah, I mean, they took a chance on us, and we've talked to the guys after. We have a friendly relationship with them now, and we've all met and hung out and these things, and we talked to them after, and like, you know, we're super thankful for the opportunity that we had, because I do say it really changed the trajectory of what it was that we were going to do as a company. For us to be able to do what we've done, especially when there's a proliferation of hot sauce out there. I mean, the pandemic was great for that. It created a lot of companies. There's very low barrier to entries, and there's a lot of great hot sauces out there that are struggling to get that sort of attention. They gave us this opportunity that we ran with, and we joked about it after. I'm like, man, like, you guys kind of changed your stuff, but like, you had to have known you took a little bit of a risk there. Like, yeah, we did. We knew we were taking a risk, but based off our conversations and, you know, understanding who you guys were, we felt it was a managed risk, and we believed in you to be able to do it. And one of two things was going to happen: one, you were going to take it and run with it and be who Ginger Goat is now, or two, you were going to fall flat on your face and we would not be having this conversation. But luckily, you know, we took it and made the most of it and ran with it.
Okay, so I have to ask, because as someone who, I overanalyze everything, I'm constantly, like, I'm a creative. I am like unabashedly insecure about everything I do. You know when that first episode's going to air.
Yeah.
What, is it a family thing? Is it just you and your wife? Yeah. Like, how did you ingest that first experience of watching your hot sauce on the show? Yeah,
so there was a couple things. So one, we had been in the production facility doing all the filming and doing all that. So we had a teaser video done. My background is actually from marketing, as I mentioned earlier. So I'd reached out to a friend that I worked with at the agency I was at a few years previous. So look, man, you can't tell anybody about this, but I need you to put a video together, and here's the footage and all that stuff. And on, I think it was May 20th, the video is going to drop. I need you to cut the clip out of Sean introducing our sauce, throw it in there, and then get it over to me as soon as possible.
Right.
And so at that time, we were still in the pandemic. Things are a little bit locked down here. But it was part of our bubble. My parents were there, and so we just happened to be in the area with the dog. And hey, guys, we're gonna stop in. So we went to my parents' place, and then, you know, my phone kind of like I got the notification that the video was live,
Yeah.
and it's Hot Ones is on. Let's here, I want to show you guys something. And on sauce number 5, and I still get a little emotional about this stuff because it was such a cool thing, but to share that moment with my parents and like, you know, because they had been so supportive too, and Tash and I were keeping this really big secret from everyone, and then at 11 o'clock the video dropped and we were able to share that moment with them, and we pull out a bottle of champagne from my backpack and, you know, kind of had this little celebration moment, and then my phone absolutely blew up. So we just posted the video about us keeping that secret, and then Sean announcing it. Yeah, my phone went crazy. It was the coolest thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So jumping back to before all of this, how did this whole thing come to be?
Yeah, so my background is in sales and marketing. So I spent a long time at an agency doing websites and digital and video and things like that. So I was one of the accounts guys and one of the directors over there for the agency. And I left and went to a client of mine that we helped kind of turn around. He was struggling with some things in his business, so I parachuted my way in. And then we kind of had this vision. So at the I'd started doing some moonlighting at the college, teaching business planning courses or running seminars in the business planning course. And it was just this one thing after another. Like, it was very serendipitous, and I keep kind of having that theme throughout. But like, I had the separation from the company I was in. Wasn't necessarily the best thing, but while I was there, like, one day I would like to work in the entrepreneurial space and look at working at the college, and have my own consulting company. Because as much as I loved doing what I was doing with one client, I missed being out in the community. I missed, I was on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, and so I miss a lot of these interactions. And then, so we had that separation, and it just so happened that during one of my talks that I was giving in the evening course, my future boss, Rose, was in the room and came up to me after. Actually, she introduced herself before, which was a little nerve-wracking, where you have, a director come into the college and go, "Hey, so I'm just here to watch you because there's going to be a reimagination as to what the entrepreneurship programs here are at the college."
No pressure.
So no pressure, but I just want to sit back and take in what it is that you're talking about tonight. And I guess
shout out Rose.
Yeah, Rose was awesome. So I guess it went well, because she came up to me after and said, "Hey, if you'd ever have any interest in talking about joining and having a little bit more to do at the college, we're going to be reimagining things. We'd love to talk." And at the time, it was, I'm not necessarily interested. I've got this thing going on there, but let's keep in touch, because if there's more programs like this, something I can do while maintaining my full-time gig, we do it. So fast forward a couple months, we had the separation. I picked up the phone and went, "Hey, I don't know if you're still looking for somebody, but I'd be really interested in sitting down and having a conversation." And yeah, I ended up joining the college as the third hire to help stand up the entrepreneurship collective within a couple of months. So I think I left in August, and then by September I was at the college.
Things don't move in slow motion with you at all.
No. I'm
noticing a trend through everything you do in life. It's just like, let's just do it.
Yeah, I don't mess around, and when I do, I don't mess around. It's one of those things is go fast, make mistakes, and like, this is a lot of my philosophy that I would talk about in business, and a lot of the learnings that I did. And everything that I talk is practice what you preach, right? So I've always said that if I'm going to stand in front of a group of people, especially entrepreneurs or whoever it is, and talk about doing these things, I need to be able to actually execute on them as well.
Yeah.
Because if not, I mean, you're just another one of those soothsayers or snake oil salesmen that everybody knows. And I pride myself on the ability to take what I talk about and put it into action.
I love that. So, and you kind of alluded to something that's on my list of questions, is because everything moved so quickly, I interpret it as a very small ability to have a margin for error.
Yep.
What mistakes have you encountered in the last 4 or 5 years of like everything being like shotgunned into your business at light speed? Like, I think of any business I've been a part of where it's like you kind of have an acclimation period where you're like, this is where we figure shit out.
Yeah.
You did not have that at all.
No, we had
at least outwardly, you didn't have that at all. So like, what have you encountered?
Well, I mean, going back to our business really quickly, we had the backgrounds, right? Because I was an entrepreneur coach. I had the marketing stuff. I didn't need to go out and hire a company to do a website for us. We did it all in-house.
True, yeah.
I didn't need to do a lot of these things where a lot of companies do make mistakes because they go to someone and they're like, oh, we're going to get your social media set up and we're going to get you tens of thousands of followers within the first couple of days and all the money is going to be coming in, and then they spend whatever 5-figure sum on an agency, and then the taps are turned on and then it's crickets.
Yeah.
So we were able to know a lot of that stuff in advance. So
for anyone listening, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's inside baseball-ish. But if you do anything for an agency or run your own agency like this guy, that is like standard practice for a lot of agencies. We're like, hey, I have this music, we're gonna get you 100,000 followers in your first week. Cool. And 0 engagement. And I just pissed away 10 grand on getting a number on my Instagram page.
And you know, there's so many things, and everyone's going to try to tell you what to do and how to do it and things like that. But I mean, authenticity is what breeds demand.
100%.
And you know, going through and making your mistakes and doing the things. And I always tell people is like, when you're bootstrapping a business, like if you come from like disposable income and you've got, you know, a job already and you've got money set aside and things like that, you know, sure, invest in your company. I'm not saying don't. However, it's super important to be able to spend as little as possible and maximize on your time. Because I look at it this way is if you don't have money, you have time to invest in your business. And if you don't, you can manufacture time. And if you have money, you can buy other people's time. So it's kind of one of these things where it's like right from the groundwork, we were lucky that, you know, we were able to avoid a lot of those mistakes out of the gate. Where we, you know, some of the things that we had to learn is what is volume. And when a distributor picks you up and says, you know, get ready, you're rolling out to hundreds of stores, you better produce a whole bunch of hot sauce. And then I'm sitting in my warehouse with skids of hot sauce going, all right, I haven't seen an email in a couple of days, but I have all this hot sauce. What's up? So really understanding, you know, inventory models, the consumer packaged goods market as a whole is this. I thought I was a smart guy. And then you start getting in and, you know, companies want to know about your Nielsen ratings. I'm like, I thought that was just for TV. But yeah, and then planogram and how much it costs to actually play with some of these bigger organizations and the barriers to be able to get there. And you know, there was a ton of learning that we had to go and really understand that, all right, we had some wins very, very early on, but get ready for the no's because that is going to continue to happen. We're still a startup and we still don't know really what we're doing. I mean, we know enough to be dangerous, but we really don't know enough about the consumer packaged goods market. And so we had to really go out and educate ourselves on what that looks like. Who are the players? Where are the conventions? Like it's different than selling to just a consumer, right? So because like with our brand, we've got 3 main channels. We have our online, we have distribution, and then we have direct consumer. Right. And so how does that split make sense for our company? How do we stop bleeding cash? We're sitting on this inventory. You know, what does financing look like? Because we were able to bootstrap from ourselves. So the first shareholder, but you know, since with scaling, we've worked with companies like the BDC and people like that. But it's really finding the resources because, again, I've worked with companies in automotive, in furniture, and a company that would vaporize rocks to do science stuff for TVs and space experiments. So like, I thought I was smart and I was plugged into all the accelerators and, you know, all this tech stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. Hot sauce? I have no idea. Like one of the most rudimentary, simple things. But yeah, consumer packaged goods was this crazy thing. So there's mistakes all over the place, and we're still making them. But I say is fail fast and fail forward. I mean, and I don't say it. That's one of those things. But it's embodying that and being okay with the no's and understanding like what pain actually feels like to be able to say like, hey, I got kicked in the nuts today, and I never want to get kicked in the nuts again. So I want to, you know, put things in place to make sure I never get back to that painful spot.
I love that. And just to, I'll ask you to educate me because I don't want to speak out of school. If I'm not mistaken, so for people who are watching who may not be aware, say you're like, I want to be in Walmart.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, you basically have to pay for your spot on a shelf.
Some, yeah.
Yeah.
So in planogram, depending on who the company is, I mean, from Walmart specifically, I don't believe that they have listing fees, but that's what they're called, is listing fees. And that's all your organization to set up in warehousing. And it is very much a pay-to-play model.
Right.
So, you know, when you see Frank's Red Hot on the shelf and you see them advertised in the flyers and things like that, it's 99% of the time it's not the grocery store that's paying for any of that. It's the company saying, hey, I'm going to get on your shelves. And we're talking about big companies.
For sure.
I remember speaking to the VP of Godiva Chocolates, and he was telling me a little bit of behind the scenes on how much they spend on how grocery stores work and how marketing and how people shop. And you know, like, we're talking $1 million plus budgets for some of these big companies, and we're Ginger Goat with myself and my wife, and you know, we just made 300 bottles and just got on Hot Ones, and now it's like, all right, so yes, we want to be in Loblaws, we want to be in Metro, we want to be in these places. But what does this actually mean? You know, and really learning, like, okay, so listing fees. All right, so yeah, we don't have that budget.
I was gonna say that to get on an end cap on a weekend in Loblaws in the GTA
is
like, I would imagine is not really an ideal situation financially.
Yeah, and so you go through it a little bit more, and you know, we have been in Loblaws with our sauces, and we have worked with Longos and some different people like that, and they're changing. And so we kind of got on at you know, I wouldn't say the beginning of it, but they'd already started putting plans in place to help support local brands.
I love that.
Because consumer behavior is shifting, especially now given the political climate. But, you know, we're starting to see a more educated buyer in general over the past number of years. I make a lot of comparisons to craft beer because, you know, craft beer 10 years ago had to convince Bud Light drinkers and the macro drinkers that craft beer is good. And we almost had to do that when it comes to food, and, you know, the rise of the Food Network and the celebrity chef and all that stuff really led into people wanting more nuanced ingredients, cleaner ingredients, or cleaner products. And so we kind of were able to do that. The grocery stores listened and started removing some of the barriers for smaller upstarts that had some demand or had some recognition within their realm to say, hey, you know, our shoppers want your stuff. We're going to help you out with that and give you a little bit more of a path or leeway to it. So some of them are reduced listing fees. Some of them are specialized programs. You know, there is still a capital investment that is involved in any of that. For sure. Which happens in any business. But yeah, it's we were, again, fortunate to be able to tap into some of those programs early on and get our distribution out there.
I love that. I'm trying not to bounce around too much.
It's all good, my friend.
And I'm also trying not to reference my list of questions I have on my phone.
We literally sat down and just started this.
We totally
did. How's it doing? Cheers a beer, and went right into it.
I totally didn't want to be like, hey, so talk to me about this off camera. Cause it's like, no shit, this is I want to know about this. You talk about your business background, your marketing background, and how you run it like a large corporation. I think if anyone's listening to this, I would implore them to go on your website and read like the About Us section. And it reads exactly how you would expect any Fortune 500 company to read.
Thanks, man.
Like you've transcribed, it's probably the wrong term, but like you've made GOAT an acronym. So if you could explain like how you came up, because I was reading it and I loved it. I think, again, you're a marketing person, so you understand this, but I think, again, especially in today's day and age, you're looking for companies to support and you want to find where that buy-in is. And you read that section about inclusivity and everything, and you're just like, oh yeah, like this is my guy. Like I would like to give this guy my money. I'm totally cool with this. Like, how was that, like, you know, before all of this started, you were like, hey, here's how I want to like set the tone essentially for the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's laying your cornerstones, so in your foundation, and everything that you do at the beginning of starting your company is going to really transition into what paths you take and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So when we started the company, and this is part of what we did with the programs at the college, is like, develop your one-page business plan, and then your bigger business plan. But understanding your mission, vision, values right out of the gate is something that I tell everybody is super important, because again, it lays that foundation, but it also helps shape the path of what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and who you're willing to do it with. And that is something that we took super seriously out of the gate. And it's, it sounds, you mentioned the Fortune 500 thing, but it's not rocket science, for us to say, we have that GOAT acronym, and the first one is gratitude. Like, people don't have to buy our products, but they do. And for us to keep that attitude of gratitude the entire time, and when someone walks up to us, to show them a good time and say thank you when they're buying our products, or just to genuinely be happy to see people, that was something that translates into the experience that we give when you come and have fun with us, when we're, having a beer at a festival or things like that, or even in this conversation, is like, we're super thankful for every opportunity, and if we're not and we don't feel that way, we generally say no. So going through that, and acceptance, and it doesn't matter who you are, what it is that you're doing, we accept all people. It is what it is. Where other brands, that comes to our marketing, we're not going to jump on some of the trends that you see in the marketing and the hype beast stuff, and we're not going to play with any of that stuff. If you've got a bad brand and you're a distributor and you come to us, and I always vet who it is that buys from us. If I don't like what it is that you stand for, you don't get to put my products on your shelf.
I love that.
And so for us, developing these things, and teamwork, we say teamwork like it's a thing, but literally it's my wife and myself. Like, that's the team. But, we have friends and family that help us out. Like, we would not be able to accomplish. Like, right now, while we're having this conversation, I was out here for Heart and Stroke Foundation last night doing a big Hot Ones charity fundraiser thing. We have a couple of our friends that are back home in Kitchener that don't have to be doing that, but are running a booth at like a food and drink show for us, and so we compensate them, but like, we make sure to take care of people, because the people that surround us and support us, whether it's, you coming towards us and buying our products, or you helping us with something, taking care of people and understanding that this is part of that team, is something that we take seriously. So, developing that from the very beginning dictates who we're going to work with, how we're going to treat people, what we're going to message for it. So it seems like it's this little piece on a website that maybe 90% of people don't read.
Yeah.
But for us, it was uber important, and it becomes the tenets of everything that it is that we do as an organization.
Awesome. And as someone who kind of, I think a lot of that is important. And I think, and I'd love your thoughts as well. I think once you are in a spot in life and in your career where you have ownership on what you're doing, and you truly love what you're doing, stuff like that becomes infinitely more important.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, right from the beginning, it's super important, because all money is not good money.
Correct.
And, everyone's had a relationship with a client, or been in a relationship with a client where it's, they take from you, you're not getting anything back. You see their name pop up on your phone when they call, and it's like you exhale. It's like, I don't want to do this, or you avoid them, right? Yeah. And I say right from the get-go, like, if you're starting your company, you get to design the rules of the game in which you get to play. Yep. Now, keep in mind, there's certain things you're going to have to do. Not every relationship is fun. Yep. Even if you have a fun client, there's going to be tough conversations. But how you deal with those things and how you choose that you get to deal with those things is so cool, and it's super empowering. And you mentioned the word ownership, and that's such a big thing in the entrepreneurial side, whether you're creative or product or whatever it is you get to take ownership as to what it is that you want to do. You get to decide, again, the rules of the game in which you get to play and who you get to play it with.
Yeah.
And, there's a fallacy in a lot of businesses that start and where it's like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be everything to everybody. I can tell you right now, you are not.
Correct.
You don't want to be. Like,
No.
you don't. But what you do want to do is understand who your A-type client is, the people that, are going to fit within your core beliefs, visions, and values for your company, the people that are authentic and maybe believe the same way, the people that are going to pay you on time. I mean,
huge.
That comes with experience.
Yes.
Because but vetting these people and understanding it's okay to say no.
Yes.
Because I would rather have less money in my bank some days than have to deal with somebody that is a complete piece of garbage, or an organization that doesn't value you or doesn't pay you on time or just gives you nothing but grief. It's super important to understand these things very early on, and then take ownership of it and don't deviate. Like under my desk, I keep a sign that my wife got me a little while ago, and it's my constant reminder is work hard and be nice to people. The model is not fucking hard. Just show up, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and be nice to people. It's really that simple in a lot of ways. There's a lot of other stuff that goes along with it, of course, but
it's a good core value, though.
For sure. And a lot of people take it for granted. I remember we went through a big study when we were with the marketing agency I was with, and we talked a lot about that. And it's like, why are people buying from us? Like, we get 5-star Google reviews. People that work with us love us. They come to our parties. They have a great time. Like, we just assumed everyone had this happen. And so we asked them, we interviewed all of our top clients, and we said, why are you guys working with us? Well, you're fun and you bring creative ideas. Well, okay, that's great. That's what we're supposed to do as a marketing agency. Yep. You do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And we kind of looked at each other and went, doesn't everybody? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Apparently. And so that, again, it's these things that we took from lessons that we learned before, lessons that we've had from some of the great companies, and reading or books like From Good to Great and How to Scale 10X Companies, and some of the lessons that we learned from all these great thought leaders, and put it into our scrappy little startup right from the beginning to make sure that we set this up for success. I'm a believer in process. I'm a believer in setting these things early so the company will thrive, and we're in this for the long haul. I don't want to be that craft beer company that goes out of business because they got complacent. The hot sauce company that has to go back to work, and maybe I will one day to make some more money. I've got some ideas as to where I want to take this thing, but for now, I mean, we're setting it up for the long haul.
I love that. And honestly, just to pile on to a lot of your points, I did a talk at Carleton University here in Ottawa about a month ago, and I had 3 of the same slide throughout my presentation that just said, "Don't be an asshole."
Yeah.
And that was a quote I pulled from a Ken Block video where he was talking about being creative, and he's like, just don't be an asshole. And I've kind of adopted that as anytime I'm having a conversation with a young creative or a young business owner or anything like that, it's just, that is the most important thing.
For sure.
And 2 additional anecdotes kind of on top of that to reinforce that point, to try and drive it home to anyone who might be listening, is I remember I was working on Red Bull Crashed Ice. Remember the downhill? So they had that here in Ottawa back in
awesome.
2018? It was 2016. And so I did the build video for that. So for 6 weeks I was working for them. I shot everything. It was awesome. It was fucking so cold, but it was awesome. But I remember asking the director of the show, I was like, why did you hire me? Like, I'm not that good at my job. I was fairly green in the business. I was just like, I don't understand. He's like, well, everyone gets along with you, and you're open to learn anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's how easy it is? Okay, cool. And I always tried to stay that way. And then recently I was having one of my insecure conversations with a colleague of mine, and he's like, you'll be fine. People really like dealing with you. Yeah. And he's like, people don't always love the people in this industry. he's like, you'll be fine. You're good with people. You'll be fine. And it was like, oh, that's, I would argue, a more important component than how I am with a camera in some cases. Like customer service, like I come from a customer service background, so I truly believe customer service is everything. A sentence can shatter an entire relationship in business networking, and it's crazy. Yeah. But I think that's something that's so often overlooked in this day and age of social media and flashiness. Is just be a good human being. It gets you so far. So it might take a little bit longer sometimes, maybe. But if you're just a nice person, you're always going to be a nice person.
Yeah, and you never know who you're talking to.
That too.
And so, and what I mean by that is, as a human that navigates this world, we have the unique ability to manipulate the environment around us to make it is that what you want to be able to do, right? You can apply levers and force over here if you want to be an astronaut, you know, depending on your age and things like that. Like, you can do cool things, but you can also do cool things with people and how you treat them with respect. A smile in an elevator could make somebody's day, right? 100%. And everyone's going through stuff that they know nothing, that you know nothing about. Yep. But we take it, you know, we wear it as a badge of honor to say that when you walk and interact with Ginger Goat on whatever level, we are going to treat you with respect. We are going to have some fun with you in one way or another, and we're going to create a positive experience. And that is one of the things that, you know, we put into the tenets very early on and has helped us get so far, because like we'll go to festivals now and, you know, the second or third year we're at a festival, people come back to the booth and like, hey, like, we had to come back and buy your sauce because like last year you guys are like dancing, you're having fun with us, like you're doing all these things, and it's like, heck yeah. And it costs you nothing. It costs you absolutely nothing to do that. And yeah, it's this cool thing that a lot of people overlook, where it's, you can have fun in business. It's not all fun, but you can have fun. And even when you're having a tough conversation, you can always address the problem and leave the person intact. So, you know, address the problem, not the person. And that's a super important thing that was taught to me early on too.
One of my favorite things from a customer service standpoint, I used to manage back in 2014, 2015. I was a store manager at Lucky Brand jeans store. Okay. And I remember in January, outdoor mall here at the outlets, you don't see a lot of people. I was telling myself, I was like, I'm going to high five every customer that comes in. Yeah. You can, there's no way you can be in a bad mood if someone comes up and just gives you a high five. You're like, 100%. Hey, you having a good day? Yeah, awesome. Boom, let's go. Yeah. Automatically, they're like, all right, this is different. This is kind of fun. I like it. Took 2.6 seconds out of my day to completely change how someone feels about our interaction and how they want to support my business.
But what's cool about that, and whether or not it was intentional or not, is that's actually pattern interrupt.
I don't know what that is. So
neuro-linguistic programming. So how many times
I'm not smart enough to understand this. Keep going.
How many times has someone come up to you and said, hey, how you doing? You go, not much. Because you're not listening to what it is that you're saying. So we run through life in patterns every single day. You walk into a store, you pretty much know the person is going to ask, hey, how are you? People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. Period. And so when you start doing things like that, and again, whether it's intentional or not, you're completely upending the traditional pattern as to what somebody expects, and now you have their attention. So it's a little thing, but I don't know if you're doing it. But when I ask, I don't always start with, hey, how you doing? Or if I do and they say, oh, not much or not bad, I'll literally look in and say, I don't care. Or people will say like, no thanks, I'm just looking. That's totally fine. I'm asking you how you're doing. And so little things like that to completely upend the pattern as to what someone expects to happen in a sales situation is kind of cool.
That's funny. I was just like, let's just make this fun.
Yeah.
Life is too
intentionally
serious.
Or not.
Life is so serious.
We sell hot sauce, man. And like, I say to people all the time is like, why are you guys so fun? I'm like, because my job is like, I literally show up, put stuff in people's mouths and talk shit. Like, that's what I get to do for a living. You know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And again, but it doesn't matter who you're dealing with. If people go into meetings expecting one thing or another, right? They'll change who they are. They'll present the way that someone expects them to be, which I think is complete garbage. And
100%.
That authenticity point and being able to say is these people get to work with me as much as I get to work with them.
Yep.
And walking to meetings now, and I have a closet full of suits. I still have it all. How many of them fit still? I don't know.
Same.
But
I'm with you.
I've got closets full of suits and stuff. But even now, I'm not going to change who I am to go into a meeting. Sure, I might put on a golf shirt. But I'm wearing my ball cap and it's going to say Ginger Goat on it. And I'm going to show up and talk to you the same way that I'm going to talk to anybody else. Because again, you don't know what you've got. And the one thing I don't want to change is my brand and my persona that we've created for that brand, just to appease somebody that may or may not buy from me.
And at the end of the day, first off, I agree with everything you just said. And I really, for me personally, I think it's, and I want to make sure I'm articulating this correctly, because we do live in a day and age where not appearance is everything, perception is everything.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at a potential new hire or someone's looking for a job, you have to be very cognizant of how you're presenting yourself online, your brand, etc. Yep. But did you ever watch the movie Layer Cake?
I've seen it. Yeah.
It's just my favorite movie of all time, just saying. But there's a really good speech at the end about how the layer cake of society, essentially. And it's talking about how you hit a point where it's you forget about all the things. And I do think in business, you do hit a point, and it's an entitled space where I'm at now, where I can say, very similar to you, you can be 100% authentic outwardly to anybody. Yep. And you're just no, this is who I am. This is how I run my business. Yep. Take it or leave it. Yep. And you can say it's okay to fire clients. I fired one this week. I had a whole conversation with another client about it, where it's sometimes you just got to be this is not going to work.
No,
and
for
that's
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
You do you. I'm going to be over here doing my thing. But I think you have to hit a point where you realize that none of this is A, forever, B, that's serious.
Yep.
I was talking to one of my clients on the phone this week where I got bored and changed my LinkedIn profile to a picture of me eating a slice of pizza.
Yeah.
Because who cares?
Yeah.
What my presentation on a social media platform is not going to dictate anything of any value in my life.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I mean, ego gets in the way of so many people when it comes to stuff. And especially now with the Instagram thing where, you hear stories of people pulling out every dollar that they have in the bank account to take a picture of some money on a bed and then deposit it all back, right? And it's kind of sad in that way where, everyone, it's so ego driven. And once you can remove your own ego to a certain extent and understand humility a little bit more. And, we talked about being able to fire clients and stuff. And it's easy to say until you have bills, right? Yes. And so when you have bills, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yep.
If you work for somebody else, you're essentially playing by the rules of their game to an extent. But what a lot of people don't talk about, especially for those roles, there's entrepreneurship and then there's intrapreneurship. So being within an organization and still creating your own brand and still doing things and running your own, whether it's running your own desk or running your own team as, an intrapreneur. And applying some of the same rules, right? Because, corporate governance can mean one thing, but you can have a team of 2 people, 1 person, your desk experience as to how someone comes up, and you still get to choose the rules as to what happens there, right? Firing clients, great if you can afford to do it.
Correct.
Scary if you can't.
Yes.
Very. But again, that having that tough conversation with someone and saying, hey, maybe we're not ready to fire you yet, but things need to change, because a lot of times you're having these big emotions and feelings and you're like, things aren't going good, and they feel the exact same way. Yep. And then you have a tough conversation with somebody that could be completely outright, and then you both exhale and go, oh, thank God we talked about this because we felt the same way, and blah, blah, blah.
It's like a good breakup.
Yeah, it's a great breakup.
It's a good breakup, yep.
But yeah, it's this cool thing when you can kind of take some of that power in some of these you know, tenets, and just apply them to whatever it is that you're doing in life, because everyone's got an identity and everybody has a role, and you have multiple roles throughout your day. It's staying true to your identity and how you apply that to your roles, which is kind of cool.
I love that. All right, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look at my questions because I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do have questions.
No, man. And this is great beer, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. It is legit my favorite. I'm not sponsored by Dominion City. Would love to be.
Yet.
But for like the past couple of years now, Sunsplit. Just it's so good.
It's good.
I like a West Coast IPA too.
Big hazy hoppy guy.
Yeah.
If we do this again, I'll bring some beers from back home. I got some great breweries back in Kitchener.
Dude, I'm a Southern Ontario boy.
Yeah, I know it's a 647.
Yeah, I was. Well, no, not even that. I was raised in London.
Oh, no way.
I moved here in 2000. Yeah,
very cool.
I grew up in London. A lot of time in Kitchener, Waterloo. I'm headed there this week. Actually, I'm going to be with Randy in Toronto.
Oh, really?
We're doing Toronto, Barrie, and Mississauga. Hold on. I'll check my message. I want to say Kitchener. Word with Trigger Tech.
Okay.
Doing some stuff in the indoor range.
Hit me up.
It's Kitchener. Yeah, I will. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, so last two questions for you.
Yep.
One's kind of a two-parter, so that's a little bit of a lie. What is your favorite flavor that you've come up with and the creative process for that? Personally.
Yeah,
not sales-wise, but like for you personally.
Oh, man. There's... So, all of my sauces are... It's like having kids. It's different times which ones are your favorites, you know?
I get that. Mine are upstairs right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really have kids. I got a stepdaughter. I say the one is my favorite.
Yeah.
But with that, I mean, it all depends on certain times. For a creative process, probably I'll answer it this way. The most selfish sauce that I've made is an IPA hot sauce. So a little segue from the beer conversation. I'm a big IPA drinker. And we did a beer with our friends at Wellington Brewery. So they had a beer out there called Raked Over, which was a mango habanero IPA, which was super cool. And so their head brewer at the time, Jeff, who's become a buddy, shout out Jeff Wilson, we ended up just, chopping it up a little bit and said, we should do Raked Over twice. So a pineapple ginger IPA with Carolina Reaper peppers. So we seriously kicked up a beer, which was awesome.
Jesus.
But as part of that process, they have their flagship IPA, which is called Upside. And I'd been thinking about messing around with beers and some recipes and things like that. And so I'm like, all right, just give me a couple cans of that. Excuse me. But I also want some hops. Which is a little bit of a different. A lot of companies use beer in their sauces. Not too many use hops. So I got my hands on some of the hop blends, some of the beer, and I went home and I just started messing around, going through some resources, just kind of doing some ideation, eating hops, which are extremely bitter and not maybe the most recommended thing, but it's like, all right, so hops, bitter, beer, potato leek soup, fish, things like that. So we did a charred leek, roasted garlic, and IPA sauce that's got hops in it. So we brought it back to them and just kind of went, hey, here is, and this talks a little bit of process. I'm like, by the way, I just, went home and made this. It was about a week later. Let me know what you think. They're like, this is good. I'm like, well, what? You expected something bad? When someone says hot sauce is actually good, that makes me happy because that means they've actually had stuff that was not good at all. But yeah, we ended up bringing that back to them and running with it. And now that's one of our staples. So it's available at Whole Foods now. It's a very polarizing sauce. You got to like IPAs, but we use it in place of mustard a lot. Like it's a pretty versatile sauce for something that was so strange. But then, we also just did stuff with the band Finger 11, which was super cool.
So let's talk about that. Because you and I, so I'm 39.
Yeah, I'm 40. I'll be 42 this year.
Okay, so very similar in age.
Yeah.
Like, I immediately, I'm trying not to nerd out because it's so goddamn cool. But like, all of high school was Finger 11.
Yeah. Same.
Like, you could just hear every, like, Paralyzer, One Thing, like all of the hits.
And even like Tip and like Grace of Blue Skies and like
100%.
all the stuff. Yeah.
You could go back to, oh my God. What was their title before they were Finger 11?
Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
Yeah, from Burlington, Ontario.
Right? Like you could go so far back. How did that even happen?
Yeah, so I'm a big music guy, and again, dating myself at 42, like I grew up listening to like a lot of that stuff. I play drums in a band as well, not very well, but I play drums in a social group with a music problem. That's probably the best way. So I can relate to that on so many levels. We're in a hobby band. We're called Sex Panthers 60% of the time. We rock all the time. Yes. So I'm a big music guy, and so turns out bands like Hot Sauce, and so just through social media and social engineering, as I like to call it, I ended up getting in touch with some of these people that were friends, and not with the ambition to really do anything other than send them some hot sauce because it's out of appreciation. Like this was the soundtrack to like high school and some other 100%. Stuff. 100%. So
iconic Canadian. If any Americans are listening, go listen to Finger 11. Fucking outstanding rock band.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to tariff anything, we should start tariffing our music because we have a fucking great music scene up here.
Music and comedians.
But I won't get into any of the politics stuff. But with that, so I ended up getting in touch with them, and it was funny that we're here in Ottawa because I've got family that lives about 20 minutes from here in Canada, and we were hanging out, so I'd sent them some sauce, and they're like, yeah, if you ever want to come to a show, just let us know. And so we were in Ottawa, and they were playing at the Bronson Center, and my brother-in-law was like, what are we doing tonight? And he's like, Finger 11's in town. That'd be kind of cool. I'm like, what? I'm like, do you want to go to the show? And he's like, yeah, like we'll look at getting tickets. I'm like, let me make a phone call. So I ended up calling Steve and some of the boys from the band, and hey, we're in town, just serendipitously. Would it be cool if we came out? So we ended up hanging out backstage, and as much as I was excited to talk to them, they were all fired up about this hot sauce because they watch Hot Ones when they're on the road, and they were appreciative that we sent them some hot sauce. Big craft beer guys as well, so we ended up just chopping it up for a little while. Kind of kept in touch and stuff, and so they just released their new single Adrenaline. Yep. There's some new album stuff in the works from my understanding. Let's go. So we ended up hey, do you want to do a hot sauce? No brainer. So I brought one, and again, from the creative process, Adrenaline is all about getting your blood pumping and things like that. So we want cherry, blood orange, and some warm spice for the color, and the blood orange for the theme. And then Paralyzer, their biggest hit, we did a pear and Szechuan peppercorn sauce. So pear, because of Paralyzer, Szechuan peppercorns has that mala kind of tongue numbing effect. Oh my God. So it's going to kind of paralyze your tongue a little bit. So that's kind of our process when we're doing stuff.
But how long does it take you to come up with that? Like, that's awesome.
We knocked those out within about a week.
So, okay. Man, I could talk to you for fucking ever. How? So you get the deal. You're like, hey, let's do this sauce.
Yeah.
Are you a pen and paper guy? Are you a sit in the kitchen and look at everything you have? Be like, what makes sense here? Yeah,
so from a process is, I mean, ideas come from anywhere.
Right.
And so it was literally, just driving around. All right, so here's the two songs. Here's a couple themes that I want to be able to work with. Here's the heat profiles that we're looking at. I spend more time talking to organizations like that. Like, how hot do you want to go?
Man, I never even thought of that. Yeah, because someone probably... a particular band might not want something that's just going to melt someone's face.
100%. And so, because we did the two, we knew one we wanted about a 3 or 4 out of 10. The other one, they're like, make it hot. It's Paralyzer.
Awesome.
And it was fun. I'll tell you a little story about that as we're going. But we literally, my wife and I, we just kind of spitball ideas. What are the themes that we're looking for? What are some ingredients that would play nice that we haven't played with? And we'll usually come up with a baseline first and then find the pepper to go into that. So a lot of companies will take something hot and try to make it taste good. We'll come up with our flavor profiles and then seek out one of the world's hottest peppers, which still to this day we get from Smokin' Ed Curry. So we have access to like all these different peppers. And so we'll end up playing with different things. So we just got, gallons and gallons of different pepper blends at home that, all right, so here's what we're thinking. Here's the heat profile. What's going to play nice with pears? What's more acidic from a pepper? Because once you get past the fact that the peppers themselves are blindingly hot, each one has a unique flavor profile.
Yeah.
So what's going to play nice in that sauce? So we did the 2 renditions in our kitchen at home where everything starts. Met the band in the studio and said, hey, here's the 2 sauces for you guys. Try them. And the only feedback we got was Paralyzer was a little bit hotter than what we were thinking. And I'm like, well, don't threaten me with a good time next time, You tell me to make something hot, and I'm going to make something hot. But yeah, it was like one and done. So
really?
Yeah, just we just had to cut back on a little bit of the pepper in the Paralyzer sauce, but both sauces were approved right away. And that, knock on wood, or melamine or whatever this desk is made of. But with that, I mean, we've been very, very lucky where most of our sauces are done within about 2 to 3 revisions before we, are going into production or working with somebody on it. Our Hot One sauces, we've had 4 of our 6 sauces involved with the show, 2 in their subscription box, and 2 of which that have been on the show. So we're super lucky. But even those recipes are things that we're one and done, and that's because you take care of the prep work, right? It's luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yep.
And we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have the backgrounds. We wouldn't be able to produce sauces if we didn't really give a shit about what we're putting out there. We launched 2 sauces last year, and they happened in December, and they happened to be the Finger 11 ones. Otherwise, we weren't going to put a sauce out. So we're limited on what it is that we're doing, and we take a lot of time and care and preparation into going into the kitchen.
Are you scoping out any other bands of Canadiana? If you're a music guy,
yeah,
I could list off bands of our generation. I'd be like, hey, maybe Alexis on Fire needs a hot sauce.
Shout out to Ratbeard, the drummer from Alexis. He is a big hot sauce fan.
Really?
And actually had his own hot sauces out for a little while.
Really?
Yeah, Jordan's a nice guy. I mean,
phenomenal drummer too, by the way.
I literally just introduced my nephew and my brother-in-law to Alexis on Fire last night.
Did you start with No Transitory? Just put that on.
I showed them the House of
Jordan,
Strombo show. They'd never seen him before. I'm like,
so good.
We were just jamming around a little bit. I brought a cajon and a shaker, and they're starting to learn how to play guitar and stuff. So we were just messing around. I'm like, do you guys know Alexis on Fire? They're like, who? I'm like, you guys are in for a treat. But anyway, I digress. There's no plans in place right now, but I've been very fortunate to become friends with some of the different Canadian bands around that are big into hot sauce, and they're just really good people. But yeah, Dine Alone Sauces was out there for a little while. So Jordan from Alexis had some sauce. Really nice guy.
That's awesome. And to jump back just for a second, one of my clients actually opened for Finger 11. I think two years ago, and could not stop speaking about how nice of human beings they are. Just like the most genuinely chill, down to earth, awesome, talkative guys you could ever want to meet.
Yeah, they're hilarious. I mean, so again, that was going back a couple years when we first met. Now, having the relationship, so we go out to shows periodically, and yeah, they're just bros, and it's kind of fun because at first, it's. Actually, this is a good lesson. It's like, nobody's above you or below you when it comes to that. It's you meet these guys and you see the rock star persona on stage, right? And you're like, I wonder what they're going to be like after. And they're just chill dudes. Like they're our age, they're older, a little bit older than us now, because they started when they were really young. But yeah, I mean, their kids are back there, or you're sitting next to their wives and talking about that. I mean, I've hung out with other bands that, you go backstage and it's a little bit crazy.
They're getting after it.
Yeah, they're getting after it a little bit. But those boys are super nice.
That's awesome. Okay, so my last question for you.
Yeah, man.
And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, this is awesome.
Honestly, I can't thank you enough. And I will text you this week because I am in your neck of the woods. So I hope to see you again later this week. What's your favorite part about your job?
that we get to do it. And I know that like is kind of like a really like long answer, but man, like we had no idea. We had no idea that this is going to be what we're doing. Like both my wife and I are full time. You know, I do a little bit of consulting work on the side and things like that. And that's because I love doing that as well. But the fact that I get to sit here having a conversation with you and, you know, telling some of the stories that we've been able to tell and say like we were on Hot Ones, like that doesn't happen for everybody, and we're so aware of that. And we talk about gratitude and grateful, and I don't want to beat that dead horse, but like, you know, Heart and Stroke Foundation, we get to, you know, help raise money for people. We get to travel all over North America. Like my sauces are in Australia, Japan, Dubai, Germany. We just picked up a distributor in the UK, and like we have some other things that are about to happen that I can't talk about yet, but stay in tune, because there's going to be some more opportunities to get our sauce very shortly. Jeez. But the fact that we get to do all this and have created a very big community, like I talked to Smoke and Ed now, who was a legend in my world, like he's family to us now. And like, you know, Chili Chili's, which you guys are blessed here in Ottawa for having Canada's biggest and best
Shout
hot
out Chili Chili's.
Blair,
they've
like,
always been great to us.
Oh, and Blair's coming over for dinner tonight, you know? And
amazing.
like these people are now our friends. Like I've met Sean Evans. I've met a lot of these guys in the food. I've met bands. Like I got to do all this stuff because we followed our dreams and got to start a hot sauce company, man. Like it sounds, again, I don't want to sound like cliche when I say the best thing about it is that I get to do it, but it's honestly it. My life has been following a dream for the past 4 years, and I feel like we're only getting started because there's a lot more for us to do. But the fact that we get to do this day in and day out and share it with some other people, and they're enthusiastic about what we get to do, there's no better feeling. It really keeps me going from those days. And, you know, everyone has days where it's like, fuck, I really don't want to do today. I could really just stay in bed and be cool with that. But then, you know, the things that we get to do and the people we get to do it with, it really kind of kicks me in the ass a little bit when you get those down moments to say, like, not everyone gets these opportunities. Not everyone gets to do what you're doing. So go out there and fucking get after it.
No better way to end it. Kris, you're the fucking man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, brother.
This was so awesome.
This
Thank
was
you so much. Dude. Man, we'll cut there. Fuck.
Yeah.
That was so good.